Welcome back, everybody. We're getting ready for the final set of the first day of the summer split of the SCL. I'm Aggro. This is Anatoly. We're getting ready to see the defending Spring Split champions, Astral Authority, up against SB.
SB, they didn't look too strong at the LAN. They lost to Elevate 0-2, and I think it was the first round, whereas Astral Authority, they beat Elevate 3-1 in a best-of-5 series, so a little bit of a discrepancy based on their last performance.
Sure.
But this is going to be a fresh start for both of these teams heading into the first week.
Yeah, a couple roster changes for SB, but first take a look at what we've seen so far today. Obey Alliance, they had a slight roster change with Airkruger retiring. Mancer steps up, has a good performance, and Obey go 2-0 over Starboys. Soar won game 1 of their set against Elevate, but then got the Reco in game 2. Elevate able to even that one up. But going back to this matchup, Astral Authority versus Strictly Business. Astral Authority, the only team that stays completely the same from the spring split. SB, they've now got Shaliber in the mid lane and then Fatal Ghost in that Hunter position. Do you think that Shaliber's addition to this roster, that kind of little bit of experience, is going to be the thing that helps SB kind of get back up towards the top?
Sure, because Strictly Business, they're a group of younger players. You know, Shaliber, he's been through the leadership test before, being in the same team as Ozzy, as well as Chapo before. That kind of leadership definitely carries over to any atmosphere that you go from that point on.
Without a doubt. Astral Authority looking for some bans early on. Chang'e and Fafnir are two very popular picks. Strictly Business, they're banning away two of their own, Susano and Kernanos. The leaves open the Awilix, and KhaoticPurpose will first pick this character. It doesn't matter if you don't have any leaps or if the rest of his team doesn't have any knockups, he still loves the early pressure this character brings.
Aggression is just the key word whenever you're describing KhaoticPurpose, and Awilix fits that perfectly. Level 1 with that Feather Step providing so much damage, but you speaking of aggression earlier on, Osiris and Bellona for Strictly Business. These are two solo lane gods specifically. Now, in the past, we have seen both of these gods run in the jungle, so it's surprising to see Strictly Business take it so early. It means that they really want to control that side of the map.
I really like it here, Totally. I mean, we saw Obey pick this exact same comp earlier on today, and it was Mifflin running Osiris in the jungle. But Astral Authority can't pick Nemesis in order to shred through this front line. They already have their jungler locked in with that Awilix, so SB can just pick 3 tanks and not really worry about that counter pick for Astral Authority.
Giving them their backline a lot of safety with such aggression. Osiris and Bellona is definitely going to want to dive that backline any given opportunity. Terra is going to be able to provide a lot of peels between that stun, the root, the movement speed from the Terra's Blessing. And so far, the composition from Strictly Business is looking pretty solid here.
Zhang Kui banned away from Shaliber by Astral Authority. Strictly Business, they're focusing out Wolves in that solo lane with both the Ymir and the Odin ban. The Medusa, character that Fatal Ghost has played quite a bit during his short time in the SCL. It's going to be Thoth here in the mid lane for Shaliber. A little bit more late game. The rest of SB's comp is really early game focused for the most part between the Osiris and Bellona. But you could kind of use those characters to catapult a character like Thoth into the late game.
It's not also about early game versus late game. It's about the range that Thoth can provide in these team fights. A lot of range whenever you drop down that wall, whether you're using your first or your ultimate ability. But Wukong and Jing wait to lock things up for Astral Authority. We haven't seen that god in quite a long time. But in order to deal with an attack-based god such as Bellona or Osiris, you want to go for a poke god in that lane.
Yeah, you could say that god. We haven't seen that god in a little bit. You could be talking about Wukong or Jing. Both of these characters had their time in the sun previously and have kind of fallen off, but some recent buffs might be enough to bring them back into viability. Cupid going to be the last selection there to round out Strictly Business's draft, kind of shut down that mobility that most of Astral Authority really needs. Awilix, of course, it's very difficult to deal with the Cupid because you can't use your main damaging ability. Feather Step is shut down by that cripple, but Wolves, Transonics, Brochacho all have dashes that can really get shut down by that Fields of Love.
That cripple is going to provide huge dividends for Fatal Ghost and the laning phase as well, because that Heart Bomb is about a 10-second cooldown, and then the duration of that Detonate providing a little bit of more slow utility. Whenever you get hit by it, you're slowed primarily, and then you're slowed afterwards. And not to mention, if your passive is filled all the way up, that's going to be a big stun.
And you got to remember that Coviiii is playing his Zeus. This is the character that he went off on at the LAN. His Zeus play was absolutely phenomenal. Can certainly keep an eye on the mid lane as Coviiii and Brochacho both dueling it up here. Brochacho, the MVP of the spring split LAN, is Reminisst on the left-hand side. The jungler is spending his early wave on the left, not the right as we usually see.
I love this different styles. Normally we're seeing the Hunter be in a 1v2 situation. That's exactly what's gonna happen. Clearing out the wave, but then sacrificing a huge portion of gold and experience under that tower just to ensure the farm, but utilizing the passive of Jing Wei, Transonics is going to be able to get back in time for that second wave.
It does go the way of Astral Authority, the enemy speed buff, so KhaoticPurpose and Wolves both ding level 2. Interesting start there by Transonics. He goes into the enemy jungle, kind of intercepts that wave, but doesn't kill any of it. He does a lot of damage to it just to prevent it from doing too much damage to his own tower, but doesn't get any golden experience. Fatal goes to level 3, and Transonics is still a couple creeps off of level 2 here.
You thought maybe that if he tagged the minions that he'd be able to get some golden experience, but that has a short lifetime. It has about 5 to 10 seconds, somewhere in that range, to be able to absorb some of that important golden experience, and that's why we see that disparity between these two hunters. But then what happens on the left is going to be reversed on the right. Astral Authority, they left Transonics alone in the dual lane, but keeping Wolves really far ahead on the Sun Wukong.
Nickwood played a lot of Guardians during the spring split, very few Warriors overall, and now he's on a Warrior that is heavily prioritized. I'm excited to see how he can do up against Wolves and KhaoticPurpose, because that's basically what this lane is in the early game against Astral Authority. It isn't just a solo lane. KhaoticPurpose is going to be hanging around that right-hand side pretty often in the early stages of the game.
And keep in mind, for Sun Wukong, he recently received a buff on both his Cudgel and his Master's Will, going from 50% scaling to 65 on the Will, and then to 60% on the Cudgel. So overall, increasing his DPS quite significantly, especially considering both of those abilities are on a 10-second cooldown.
And but that takes a little bit more effect in the mid to late game,
Sure.
right? So you need to have some power built into your build in order to really take advantage of that additional scaling.
And knowing Wolves, he likes to experiment with a lot of different builds. I wouldn't even be surprised if he goes for a Transcendence on the Sun Wukong, trying to really min-max his damage output.
Okay, totally. This was a big argument whenever everyone saw Wukong was getting a buff. It was Divios, it was Wolfie. They were all saying they were the initial inventor of the Transcendence Wukong build. You were around during the time.
Sure.
Can you credit it to anyone in particular?
No, no one in particular. It's like you have to have severe documentation to really see it, because everybody's experimenting, whether or not it's on their main accounts or even their Smurfs. That's something that SPL and SCL players alike will always try out. None of these players are ever content with one specific build. And whenever there's a change in the patch notes, every single patch, all these players are going through different phases.
I thought you were the one who started the Transcendence Wukong. I've got no basis for that. I'm just assuming that every solo laner thinks they start every trend, and you were just going to take credit for it. That's what I was expecting.
I'll certainly take credit. I did every single build.
That's right. That's absolutely right. Either way, Astral Authority and Strictly Visits, they are all tied up right now. AA, they've got a slight lead, about 500 gold. That is due to the overall having a little bit more farm on that right-hand side because of those fire elementals, as well as Astral Authority splitting the oracles with Strictly Business on the left. But here's where the real lead is going to start to try and materialize, if you're rooting for one of these teams, is these first respawns of the buff invade. Shalaber's already used that dash. It's a 3v3, but KhaoticPurpose is on the way.
A huge timing, because Chillvanus is now level 5 on the Terra, doesn't have that Blessing Global available, but neither does Brochacho on the Revive. However, Khepri level 4, I would say slightly more significant in these little skirmishes than a Terra, so I'm surprising Astral Authority didn't elect to pull the trigger. Instead, they're kind of like playing this back and forth bouncing game between middle and the jungle.
No real damage on Reminisst quite yet. KhaoticPurpose is going for him with that Feather Step, but that Judgment Tether certainly helping mitigate quite a bit of that damage. Coviiii getting that final judgment, and in panic drops the lightning storm right on top of himself. No ticks onto anyone there from Coviii's ultimate, and the purification beads as well. So good win for SB, as Coviiii doesn't really get any effectiveness out of his kit.
A washed engagement by Astral Authority. No win, but no loss either. It seems that Strictly Business could have easily capitalized with such important cooldowns being down from Coviiii on the Zeus between the purification beads and the ultimate. However, still a very long duration cooldown, so in about the next 45 to 90 seconds, I wouldn't be surprised if the Chaos team starts to force something in the jungle.
And that's maybe on the left side as well, because Nickwood is a little bit still behind of Wolves, and after Wolves splits these fire elementals and speed buff with KhaoticPurpose, it's going to continue to go in the solo laner's favor. Astral Authority really relying on their solo lane pretty heavily, as they have since this roster was formed. Anytime Wolves is on your team, you're going to be leaning pretty heavily on that solo side, one of the premier solo laners on the console.
Wolves is one of these solo laners that provides some old school and new blood action. He always will bring out some of the Loki in his gameplay, the Odin, not something we're used to seeing very often on every single solo laner, but these gods in the right timing and opportunity inside your god composition can really pay off the dividends, and this is why Wolves has been such a big factor no matter what team he's on.
Versatile, I think, is the word that comes to mind with Wolves. He can really do it all for you. Now, that doesn't mean that he won't also pick Odin 35 games in a row and bird bomb you consistently throughout those 35 games, but when the timing is right, he can absolutely pull out the Lokis, the Ao Kuang solos. That's what I remember him really really bursting onto the scene on, was the Ao Kuang. Bakasura, he loves that. He can really adapt to any sort of situation. This game, it's the Wukong, and his kind of job in this one totally seems to be just keeping Nickwood in lane and making Coviiii a little bit more comfortable because he doesn't have to worry about 2 warriors just running at him, only the one for Reminisst.
And so far successful for the Sun Wukong onto Wolves. He's a level ahead, a slightly more gold, about 600 ahead at this point in the game, not even 7 minutes into the game. And that's a huge factor considering neither of these players went for the chalices, just relying on pure sustain and a little bit of vision instead.
I really like this composition for Strictly Business because usually when you pick 2 early game warriors like Bellona and Osiris, you're going to be saying, well, if they don't win the early game, they're pretty much done. That's entirely their composition. But you've got the Thoth, you've got the Terra, the Cupid, not particularly late game, but can hold its own there. I think that SB's composition kind of transitions well into the late game, provided Shalaber is going to do what is necessary of him. You could say the same about Astral Authority. They've got some early game with the Awilix, the Khepri certainly helping in that aspect as well. But their mid game is really, really strong.
I would definitely agree with you, but the thing is, Strictly Business seems that they need to do more playmaking abilities because they went for that Sunder on Reminisst. That's a purely offensive relic that you want to take advantage of every single cooldown, or at least forcing out some defensive cooldowns, because the fact that that cooldown is about 120 seconds, whereas if you look at the Aegis or the Purification beads, those are 160, so you're trying to find that small sweet spot of a window to take advantage of, squeeze that secondary Sunder in, and look for some plays.
8 minutes in, still zeros on the scoreboard in terms of kills, but Astral Authority maintains the slightest of leads in both experience and gold, but this one is all even. These games usually tend to really play like this for a little bit longer, and then one big explosion, a big bang basically, usually around this objective right here, the Gold Fury.
Gold Fury has not been started yet. Oracles has respawned. Brochacho spotting it from a distance instead, going the way of Strictly Business, and despite being behind earlier on for Transonics, he's now caught up in the level department against Fatal Ghost.
Wolves gets the beads and the Terra ultimate out from Chillvanus, and Shalaber with 1 teleport. Reminiscent in a little bit of trouble on the front side. He still has his ultimate, but pulled back in by KhaoticPurpose. The Feather Step is good, and that's going to be the first blood. Astral Authority first on the board. Nickwood trying to get away, dodges the abduct coming out of Brochacho, but cannot do the same for the root. Nickwood in a ton of trouble. He's gonna fall here. 2 kills, both the way of KhaoticPurpose. Wolves finds 1 in the midst of 3, all by himself in the mid lane, and Astral Authority claimed the first 3 kills.
Not only was Wolves zoning out 3 completely, but he finds a kill. This player is just on a complete tear. Chillvanus trying to keep the tier 1 tower alive as long as possible, but without much mana on Fatal Ghost, he can't spam the Heart Bomb. He can't keep his support alive with those hearts, and that's going to be a free tier 1 tower for Astral Authority, the first objective of the game.
Reminisct never even gets a chance to use his ultimate in that last engagement, but I really want to go back to the initial, just right from the outset. Wolves teleports in on that ward that you see on the enemy red buff for Strictly Business, gets Shalaber's Purification beads, and Chillvanus has to use his Terra's Blessing. There was no one around him, but Wolves is just that intimidating, I guess, that Strictly Business kind of overcommits to the defense and leaves Reminisct all alone on that bottom left side.
He was just too far away from his teammates. They couldn't really find a lot of the protections to keep the jungler alive, but KhaoticPurpose did a great job finding that initial knockup. Not something very easy to do whenever you're the one that has to find that knockup. Unless it was Transonics Persistent Gust, that could have also been an easy setup for that Awilix ultimate, and utilizing this jungle ultimate allows them a lot of control here. The relic department's heavily favoring them, considering that the Purification Beads is still up for Coviiii, as well as that Aegis from KhaoticPurpose.
We didn't really talk about that synergy between KhaoticPurpose's ultimate and the knockups from both Transonics and Wolves, but two characters that, as we mentioned, haven't seen a whole lot of as of late, but getting a little bit stronger with the recent buffs, and now you factor in that synergistic knockups with the Awilix ultimate. Love these two picks coming out of Astral Authority, the Wukong and the Jing.
And Wolves had several choices for knockups. He had Xing Chen, Sobek. There was several choices for him, electing to go for the Sun Wukong, but it was also the fact that KhaoticPurpose started in his lane to get him that initial spike that he needed to control the lane from that point on. He hits level 12 before Nikwit on the Bellona, gets that secondary relic. It's actually going to be, surprisingly, the Aegis amulet on the Sun Wukong. Not something we're normally used to seeing out of a soul laner, just because of how tanky they already are. So without this team fighting relic, he's going to be diving that backline, absorbing as many cooldowns, and then saving his own life with either his ultimate or that secondary relic.
Yeah, really making it even that much harder to kill Sun Wukong, as if he wasn't hard enough to kill already. Gold Fury not being looked at, but the Oracles go the way of strictly business. Transonics in the middle of 4. Chillvanus gonna pop his Terra's Blessing ultimate. Shalibur charging the final judgment, but Transonics jukes it out. Hieroglyphic Assault not enough. Scarab's Blessing was there just in case anyways. And Astral Authority, they're gonna walk away. In the middle of, it was a 2v4 there, and Astral Authority come out on top.
Exactly like you mentioned, 2v4. Transonics was baiting every cooldown, relying on Brochacho to mitigate some of that damage with the Rising Dawn, even using that Scarab's Blessing just for good measure.
Now Chillvanus in trouble, but Coviiii off the mark with the Chain Lightning again. Now drops the ultimate defensively, as he's had to do most of this game just to get Reminisst off his back. But someone needs to help Chillvanus get KhaoticPurpose off of him. No one can. And now 3-0 for the jungler. Astral Authority at KhaoticPurpose in particular really having a strong game here.
Despite Coviiii only being level 9, the threat of that chain lightning bounce off of the shield deters two members. Both Fatal Ghost and Reminisst did not want to proceed after that tier 2 tower, but Reminisst trying to look for the Gold Fury steal here.
Nikwit is here as well, but it goes Astral Authority's way, courtesy of that detonate. Big chain lightning this time coming out of Coviiii. May have stepped a little bit too far forward. The Somersault Cloud off the mark there from Wolves, but the Magic Cudgel is not. Number 5 for Astral Authority, as Coviiii is going to fall. Strictly business on the board, courtesy of that kill from Nikwit. Transonics gonna have to turn and run, but Astral Authority get the objective and a kill and push their lead a little bit higher.
They're gonna get a second kill as Nikwit's gonna be the second victim. Transonics using that Aegis, trying to buy as much time as possible, agilitying away, but that Heart Bomb providing more slow utility, making it very difficult to escape, especially considering Transonics used that ultimate earlier on, trying to get the kill secure onto Reminisst, despite Wolves guaranteeing it with that cudgel.
Yeah, a little bit of a miscommunication there, and if Wolves is able to find that kill just by jumping off of that Somersault Cloud, then maybe Transonics gets to hold on to the airstrike and could potentially get away. Missed ability coming back to haunt Astral Authority even when they get the kill. Final Judgment does good damage to Wolves, still has his Aegis available if necessary. Is able to Ox form out of danger. KhaoticPurpose continues to just keep on playing aggressive and keeps on going. Scarab's Blessing gives him the movement speed necessary to chase down Fatal Ghost. Aegis is good as well to save his own life. KhaoticPurpose 5-0. Credit to Brochacho there, keeping his jungler alive.
Coviiii doing so much damage on the Zeus. He's only level 10, but he's the second on the player damage charts. These chain lightnings have been so impactful coming out of the Zeus mid for Astral Authority. They got the Gold Fury earlier on. They stopped the Portal Demon being attempted by Strictly Business. And then the patience from Astral Authority, despite winning that team fight, not going for the secondary objective, taking it slow and easy, resetting, getting some more farm on the opposite sides of the map before they regroup for the next one.
Coviiii still hanging out on this right side of the map, putting some more poke onto the double warriors of Osiris and Bellona. But Wolves now is able to handle this all by his lonesome. Up a level on Nikwit, gonna put the stun onto him with that Tiger form. Now Brochacho showing up. Nikwit does have the Eagle's Rally and immediately uses it in response to the root from Brochacho. Nikwit now in danger of dying from one rotation from KhaoticPurpose.
I think Nikwit was afraid that Coviiii was right around the corner because the DPS from just Wolves and Brochacho wouldn't have been enough to really kill this level 13 Bellona that has Hide Enemy online. So he's pretty resilient against some of these abilities from Wolves, but without much magical protection, he's really afraid of the Zeus in these team fights, and just the area control from Coviiii is going to be so detrimental as to how Nikwid wants to engage it. He's going to need to really save onto that Eagles rally defensively to survive.
We see a Runeforged Hammer pickup here from Reminisst. This is an item that's getting a lot of discussion right now, Toli. Why is it so popular, and why do we see Reminisst pick it up right now?
Well, every time you get crowd controlled, whether it's a slow, silence, taunt, stun, whatever the case is, you're going to be taking amplified damage. It's a similar case with the Sunder passive. I think it's about 15% on that Runeforged Hammer, and that's nothing to really scoff at, especially considering Osiris has so many ways of really crowd controlling you between his two slows and the tether.
He's the one getting crowd controlled right now, though, as he's forced to use his ultimate to get away from KhaoticPurpose and Wolves. I think the big thing for me with Runeforged Hammer is that it's 2,000 gold.
Sure.
Flat. Like, no, I'm not, that's it. It's 2,000 gold, and that is incredibly cheap for a very strong item that also gives you some HP. As KhaoticPurpose blinks in and knocks down Shaliber. Coviii's going to be able to get the one with the credit for the kill. Now KhaoticPurpose trying to get his Scarab's Blessing popped, and he will. Brochacho on point once more with that ultimate. Wolves in the middle of everybody here until KhaoticPurpose pulls Chillvanus out of range. Coviiii gonna help him get another kill in that scenario. Wolves does eventually fall to the hand of Reminisst, but a 2-for-1 in favor of Astral Authority.
Ooh, nice little slow from Coviiii, keeping his support alive a little bit longer. And just like you mentioned, that 2-for-1 is surprisingly going to spark Strictly Business to start up the Portal Demon despite not having the numbers advantage. They recognize that Transonics was on the left-hand side that whole time, grabbing the tier 2 tower, so they need something in return.
Brochacho throws out the Rising Dawn, but the Moonlit Charge is going to steal it away. The third ability from KhaoticPurpose snags the Portal Demon right from Strictly Business's hands. As you mentioned, Transonics was on the left-hand side, split pushing that entire time. He gets both towers, and now Astral Authority, you may have just blinked, and all of a sudden Astral Authority's up 9,000 gold.
At the 17-minute mark. This is really impressive. Out of the last Spring Split LAN Finals winners, this team has just been on point every single time. Doesn't matter if they're online or LAN, they're taking their efforts here in the first week.
Coviiii, level 13, not the highest level in the game by any stretch, but still pretty high in that damage department, as you mentioned. Second, only behind Wolves, who has just been in the face of the opposition all game long. In fact, he's gone for a Massive Immune, which is going to make him being in the face of the opposition that much better. He's getting extra protections for each enemy that's around him. Oh yeah, and he gets 50 power and some movement speed on top of that.
That 50 power is going to pay off quite a lot considering he's going to spam those abilities. 7 protections per stack. We're getting a total of 35 per. Chillvanus though caught in a really awkward situation. Nikwid having to use that Eagles rally defensively.
Wolves knocks up 2 there with the Ox form, really in deep there, finding Shaliber with that dunk down off the Somersault Cloud. Transonics airstrike on top of Nikwid. Wolves gonna clean that one up for himself as well. Double kill for the solo laner. Transonics claims one of his own, this time onto Chillvanus. A 3-for-1 as KhaoticPurpose finally took a spill there in that last engagement. But again, it's Astral Authority ending up on top, and I gotta give a lot of credit here to Wolves. Shaliber was lining up for a huge final judgment, was just finishing off the charge, writing the last words in the book before he fires it, and then Wolves comes screaming out of nowhere with the Ox form, interrupts it. That could have been Strictly Business's fight if it wasn't for Astral Authority solo lane.
One of the downfalls of the ultimate from Thoth is that you don't have any crowd control immunity while you're charging that important ultimate, and the team composition from Strictly Business is starting to deteriorate to the point where Shaliber can't really get the protections that he needs to survive in the backline. 2 levels behind Coviiii. His damage has just been not on point here. Less than about 50% of the damage collectively compared to Coviiii, and this Thoth needs to find a way to survive. He needs to either separate himself a little bit further away from the action, but that's a tall task when you have Wolves that wants to get in your face. Not only that, KhaoticPurpose with that important blink that'll get there quickly.
Now, you look at Strictly Business's team composition, you see 3 frontliners in the Bellona, the Osiris, and the Terra. And so your brain automatically thinks, yes, there should be a lot of backline peel here, but when you actually break down what these characters do, Bellona and Osiris don't really want to peel. They want to be fighting you on the front line, just like Wolves is doing right now. Fatal Ghost already very low, courtesy of that blink feather step. Wolves gonna be able to finish him off for his 5th kill of the game. The abduct is good on the Nikwid, who goes up and down. Down he goes, courtesy of Wolves. Double kill for the solo laner once more. An easy 2 kills there for Astral Authority. as they retreat back towards the Fire Giant.
And Strictly Business, they just can't group up and coordinate their abilities at the same fashion that Astral Authority are, catching one member out of position. Fatal Ghost was the unfortunate first victim of that little skirmish, getting caught on the right-hand side, but now starting up the Fire Giant very low, but peeling off of it, trying to find some more kills.
Reminisst does have his ultimate, but the Terra's Blessing is going to help him out, give him a little bit of extra movement speed and HP. Good chain lightning there from Coviiii, but not enough to find a kill as Wolves immediately Tiger stuns the Fire Giant, trying to keep it low. Didn't regen all the way, so Transonics still full HP, has plenty of damage in his build. Gonna be able to finish this one off pretty nicely. It's only Chillvanus here. Great abduct in time by Brochacho. Secures the Fire Giant for Astral Authority.
Chillvanus double dashing away. Reminisst goes up and down with the tether, trying to get as much damage as he can. He has so much defenses, but it's not going to be enough. Chillvanus is going to fall first, and there goes Reminisst.
Shaliber going to be next on the list. I don't think that Aegis is going to help him too much here, Tolly, as Wolves goes into the Somersault Cloud and right down on top of Shaliber once more. Nickwood trying to handle his solo lane opponent, but he's 4 levels down to Wolves right now. Lightning Storm comes out from Coviiii. Detonate not going to be enough quite yet as Nickwood comes in with the Eagles rally. You thought you were going to kill Wolves. Finally, someone was going to do it. Brochacho's there with the Scarab's Blessing. No kill for you. 19-4. Astral Authority on top.
What a commanding lead, too. 14,000 gold almost here. Going to be 15 after this Tier 2 tower with the Fire Giant around their waist for another 3 more minutes. You can say goodbye to all these Phoenixes and the game if you're Strictly Business.
Tier 2 tower in mid falls. You can say the same about the one on the right-hand side. No towers left standing for Strictly Business to defend their base. Astral Authority only has to make work of the Phoenixes, and the way they're playing right now, Tolly, that doesn't seem too tall a task. We've been calling Wolves in Chaotic Purpose all game long, and deservedly so. They've got 14 of Astral Authority's 19 kills. But Transonics has quietly had a very solid game on this Jing Wei, not only in the team fights, but the split push as well. He's 5 items into that build, rushed the Ninja Tabby right off the bat. Looks like he's going to just go for some outright damage last item, I assume. That Spiked Gauntlet will turn into a Blood Forge.
Absolutely, and like you mentioned before, that 17-minute mark, Portal Demon Steel, during that whole time that Astral Authority was on the right side of the map, Transonics were just chilling on the left-hand side, getting the more important objectives, because even if Astral Authority don't get that objective, net worth is much higher to be able to get that Tier 2 tower. You're actually getting double the net worth compared to that Portal Demon, and this kind of a lead that Astral Authority has built for themselves has just been snowballing ever since about the 8-minute mark or so, especially once they got that first Gold Fury.
All of Astral Authority healthy and just looking for the objectives, objective-minded. This team always seems to be, and after they get the Portal Demon, they go immediately to the Gold Fury. Not so much for themselves here, Tolly, though they do have a couple power items they'd like to finish before this hopefully final siege if you're rooting for Astral Authority, but to keep it out of the hands of Strictly Business as well.
Well, that also helped Transonics complete that Blood Forge, having a huge physical power spike now, 75 additional physical power on that one item. Every single in-hand from this Jing Wei is just going to be hurting so bad.
Plenty of penetration as well, plenty of attack speed, and got plenty of damage after that Blood Forge, as you mentioned. Plus the Chinsai is going to augment that damage even more.
The girdle from Brochacho is going to just augment the penetration, the damage, not only of Transonics, but the rest of his teammates. KhaoticPurpose and Wolves diving that back line with the Frenzy from Brochacho. Any squishy from Strictly Business is just going to have a rough time, and that's unfortunately not being able to use their composition wisely, because they built this sustained composition from Chillvanus' heals on the Terra's Blessing, the Monolith, and then you have the hearts from Fatal Ghost that just haven't been a factor this game at all.
You say the squishies are in trouble. Well, I think you can put Reminisst and Nickwood on that squishies list at this stage. I mean, level 14 for Nickwood, the solo laner, the same level as Brochacho. He's going to be dealing with a couple level 20s. Look at that chain lightning damage. KhaoticPurpose blinks in and just uses one ability. Shouts to Heartseeker, gives him the kill onto Shaliber. Now Nickwood trying to frontline, but as I mentioned, he's dealing with a couple level 20s. He's going to be in trouble. Up and down with the Eagles rally, but Coviii's the one to secure the kill. Now Reminisst in the back line trying to handle the damage dealers. Frenzy's popped and the Scarab's Blessing, just in case. The insurance policy not even needed to cash in as Coviiii notches a double kill. Everyone from Strictly Business falling one by one. Only Fatal Ghost left. I think he's just going to have to watch, Tolly. The left side Phoenix, Transonics handled all by himself. The right side Phoenix now down, courtesy of everyone else on Astral Authority. don't even need the mid Phoenix in this scenario. Astral Authority continues to look dominant. They did it all spring split long, getting off to a good start in the summer.
They were so dominant that Chillvanus didn't even hit 12 for that second relic in that last team fight. The shell was just not enough at this point in the game. 25 minutes in, 23-4, Astral Authority looking solid in the first game of the week.
And I talked about it in the Obey set when they went for this double warrior composition. It's great when it gets ahead. Feels like it's unstoppable. But if you get behind, it's really, really tough to claw back. And even though I like Excalibur on the Thoth to give you a late game option, when you go 0-6 on your late game option, there's not a whole lot there for you when you fall behind.
The problem was Reminisst was in the left-hand side, that dual lane, trying to shut down Transonics, but he never came back to the dual lane after invading the red and the purple buff. We saw the level disparity early on. It was 3 versus 1, Transonics versus Fatal Ghost, but then Transonics hit level 10 around the same exact time that Fatal Ghost is, whereas Wolves on the Soul Lane side, his momentum just carried on throughout the whole game, getting at least a 2-level lead.
I mean, I guess when you pick this sort of composition where you want to pick both the strongest warriors in the game right now and just snowball that lead on the right-hand side, when you don't go to the right-hand side, why are you drafting that sort of composition? I just feel like SB didn't really play to their composition strengths, whereas Astral Authority, they absolutely did, giving Transonics a character that he can split push on, and just give Wolves a god that he can hard carry on, like Wukong.
And disrupting the Thoth every single time with that Ox form made it so obnoxious, and that's why we saw Excalibur very low on that damage count. It's not because the god itself, it's because of just the disruption from the enemy solo laner, recognizing the dash from Fatal Ghost, cutting the option away with that Summer Cloud.
Everything Wolves did was just really impressive this game. Only died once, I believe, and just had a very solid performance all around, but you gotta give credit to the rest of Astral Authority as well. Even when one player is playing well, you gotta have everyone else doing their job on top of that, and you could certainly say that basically everyone on Astral Authority had a clean game that time around, bro. Chacho was on point with the Khepri, not only the ultimates, but the frenzies, the sprints, the Rising Dawns as well. Astral Authority looking like a well-oiled machine.
And that's what you want to do to start off the split. Start off as strongly as you possibly can. And Astral Authority, from winning the LAN, they look like they're in a good spot as well to carry off their momentum from the LAN into the online portion of this split.
Yeah, everyone.